What is your deepest desire? Hi, I'm Brian Pombo. Welcome back to Brian J. Pombo Live. Today I'm going to be talking about what author James Clear talks about in Atomic Habits, when he discusses your deepest desire. It's every human's deepest desire. And I'm going to get into that in a second. I want to cover some other pieces. This is all from the second law section of his book, where he talks about making it attractive. So if you're looking to build good habits or get rid of old habits, the way to get rid of old habits is to make something unattractive. The way to get a new habit is to make it attractive. It's difficult because most new habits, the real problem with it is the attraction we have is down the line. It doesn't usually start out good. It usually starts out painful, uncomfortable, whatever, not tasty, what have you. No matter what a good habit is, it usually starts out undesirable and ends up desirable in the long run. A bad habit goes the opposite direction. It's a funny dichotomy, but he talks about making things attractive if you're wanting to make a good habit. And this can be said in both directions. So we talk a lot on here about business and the concepts surrounding marketing and how to get your word out there, get whatever it is that you're trying to get people to do, getting it out there. In fact, I wrote a book, 9 Ways to Amazon Proof Your Business. It's all about how to stand out. It's all about how to be out there. By the way, if you want a free copy, you can go to amazonproofbook.com. But back to this one, I don't get any money for Atomic Habits, just so you know. I really enjoyed the book, so I wanted to go through and give a quick little piece review of this. The interesting thing about making things attractive is it ties back into marketing. So, and it ties back into all forms of marketing. So whether you're trying to sell a country on your political vision, or whether you are trying to encourage a close family member to do something that would be good for them, the same thing's true. You need to be able to make it attractive to them. And you need to be able to hit that second piece of the 4-step process of building a habit. That second piece is called craving, and that's how you get there, by making something attractive. A person has to crave what it is. So one of the best parts in this book, well, I say that over and over again, it's not really the best part of the book. One of the best parts in this section that I just happen to be looking at today is he's talking about the fact that they went through and they started looking at dopamine spikes. So dopamine is that substance going into your brain, the hormone or what have you, it's a pleasure reward into your brain, right, for doing a certain thing. And it happens when you do bad things, and it happens when you do good things, but it happens nonetheless. You're always going to have a certain amount of dopamine in your system. In fact, they found that if you don't have any dopamine, you won't have any desire to do anything, and you'll probably die of starvation because you have no desire to even eat. So that's an interesting idea. But it says that they went through and they started seeing at what point did dopamine spikes happen, especially if you're talking about someone with bad habits, which we would call an addict. So they talk about gambling addicts, and it says gambling addicts have a dopamine spike right before they place a bet, not after they win. You see, they maybe the first few times they get the highest high toward the tail end, but it becomes the anticipation of the high that is even more important. So it says if the anticipation of a reward, and this is for any situation, not just addicts, any situation where you have something that you're driven to do, if the anticipation of it is the anticipation of a reward, not the fulfillment of it, that gets us to take action. So the action is taken via anticipation. The dopamine spike, that pleasure feeling, actually starts to occur long before the payoff. It happens during the cue and the craving section of your process when you're doing something over and over again. You get ramped up and excited about it early on. This is very key to all forms of marketing, because if you can tap into that with people, then you can get their attention, and you can get them to take action, which is the most difficult step in anything when you're trying to do any form of marketing whatsoever. It's the whole idea that you're trying to get someone to do something that they wouldn't normally do, or haven't done, or aren't doing as often as you want them to. Okay, that's what marketing is, for good and for bad. And so that, if you look at it from that sense, this is what people are trying to get you to do. This is what the commercials are trying to get you to do. At the same time, it's what you're trying to get other people to do, is to take action on something. It talks about that habit stacking formula that we talked about before, and how well that works in this. Let me move ahead here. This is where the deepest desire really comes in. Because yeah, you can always have a craving towards something, but what really drives people? Charles Darwin said, in the long history of humankind, those who learn to collaborate and improvise most effectively have prevailed. And so James Clear says, as a result, one of the deepest human desires is to belong. And this ancient preference exerts a powerful influence on our modern behavior. We don't choose our earliest habits, we imitate them. There's an instinct to want to belong. And we talk about this in the frame of marketing. Nowadays we call it social proof. So seeing testimonials and seeing other people that have gotten a good experience from the action that the person is trying to get us to take, to purchase something, to get involved with something, when they see other people doing it, they're automatically drawn toward it. This is why, if you have a restaurant, one of the best things you could possibly do is pay for people to park their cars there, even if they're not eating in the restaurant. You need the perception at some point that you're popular in order to become popular. That's a weird paradox, isn't it? But it's absolutely true across the board, and it's built into the human condition. There's no way around it. And he talks about that we imitate the habits of three groups in particular, and I found this interesting because I've never heard it quite described this way. So we imitate the close. So people who are close to us in proximity, people who are close to us in relations, people who are, it's the close, the people who we're most connected with and around all the time. You soak up the qualities and the habits of other people. So many of your original habits and the way that you conduct yourself is based on your home life growing up. There's just no way around it. You're going to imitate those people. It's just a very natural thing. The other thing that we imitate is the many. You imitate the many. So the concept of whoever the majority is, that's who you're going to imitate. It doesn't mean it's actually the many. It's who you think the many is, which is incredible. And then the third one is imitating the powerful. Those who we consider powerful, prestigious, those with status. That's a lot of who people imitate, a lot of who people envy. Once again, these are extremely subjective frames of mind and can be totally manipulated. You have to be able to see how you're manipulated by these things throughout all culture, but you also have to be able to see that, and you have to realize how you're communicating with people so you don't get in the way of these things. Not that you necessarily go through to purposefully manipulate people, but you can't ignore the fact that this is how people function. So that was really the most important thing, I think, to take from that is the idea of belonging. That sense of belonging is so key. It's so central to human beings. And there's a good side to it, a bad side to it, and that's why we end up having wars and everything else, but for that sense of belonging from our fellow countrymen and so forth. It's very, very interesting how it affects us on a day-to-day basis. It's something to keep an eye on. And it's something to also keep an eye on when it comes to your marketing, that you're not going against that sense of belonging, because you'll be fighting against human nature itself. That's all I got for today. I'll be back tomorrow we're gonna go through the third law tomorrow, and that's all I got. We'll see you tomorrow. In the meantime, get out there and let the magic happen.